that drive that we're trying to get to the airport was a scene from a movie. I can't ever forget that memory of my head. We're just driving. People are driving the opposite ways on the highway. There's fires on the road, and all of a sudden, every neighborhood started creating their own police to guard their neighborhood. Just a bunch of vigilantes, basically. 14-year-olds, 16-year-olds, 20-year-olds, standing, creating checkpoints before their neighborhoods. So they have swords, they have guns from the police stations, and we're hearing on the radio while we're going how much people are getting killed in their cars because those vigilantes didn't trust them. 14-year-olds, they don't think, they act. One neighborhood before the airport, there's no way around it. I have to go through that neighborhood, and I know that this neighborhood they have different ideology, and they're brotherhood leaning, Muslim brotherhood leaning, and I knew I just wasn't going to stop. I'm driving, and that one road that they're blocking, I can see them, and I start seeing like a 14, 15-year-old child with a sword in his hand, standing in front of the checkpoint, walking towards the car, and I'm coming in, and he is pointing with his sword for the car to stop. But I wasn't going to stop. I was going to drive. My baby's in the back seat. And as I'm driving and I'm looking him in the eye and I'm increasing my speed, something that never happened to me before, how my brain started explaining to me what's about to happen and preparing my body to react that way. I start seeing images and flashes of the kid's skull under my car. I hear the screech, I see it all before it's happening. I hear his friends yelling, and I'm going straight through and I'm looking him in the eye and hoping he just gives up and loses the chicken fight. And I wasn't, in my head, I'm just not stopping.
Welcome to One-on-One with Nick Nanton. Our next guest fled Egypt in the revolution with his family, came to Hollywood, didn't know anyone, applied for over 1,000 jobs filming on Craigslist a week, ended up shooting birthday parties for hundreds of dollars. Fast forward, he now has 4 Emmys. He's on Mark Burnett's short list, one of his favorite directors, has just directed some amazing shows on TV, and has his own show coming out that is just about to be announced called Mummies Unwrapped. Please welcome Mr. Ramy Romany.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So I have to keep a straight face. I should say I know you all too well. We've traveled the world and gotten in lots of trouble, so we'll talk about that. Tell me about growing up in Egypt.
I was born and raised in Egypt. I lived in Egypt all my life. My father did all the ancient Egyptian documentaries for Discovery Channel and National Geographic.
The origin of the Sphinx, carved out of the living rock, was lost in ancient times.
He couldn't care less about my school. I still had to go to school, like everyone does. In Egypt, you don't go all the way to college, you're illiterate. It's very important. Everyone has to finish university. But my father always wanted me with him on set, on location, and honestly, it's much better than school. I get to be on all the ancient Egyptian sites when they're first open. I've been under pyramids that were never discovered before. I've been the first one underneath tombs, seeing mummies for the first time. Every one of these documentaries would need me to go and scout first, so I'm literally the first one on set. And I think when I was 11, he had 3 documentaries at the same time. It's a family business. My mother did one, my father was producing one, and I got stuck with one. He doesn't want to turn anything down, so he said, well, Ramy's here is going to take care of you. I had to lie about my age, but I was 11. And it was the easiest thing I could have done. And it was very easy for me. I would go to the pyramids, and everyone there is like my uncle. They knew me 5 years ago since I was a kid running around. And I would, hey, Uncle Pyramid Director, we're here to film today. And the thing that I had at 11 with them was trust. And that's all what mattered. They trusted me. It doesn't matter if I was 11 or not. They know that kid. And since then, I've been doing it nonstop. I would go a different documentary, another. I produced over 1,000 of them for all the different channels. I had a great life. Everything was perfect.
Tell me about university a little bit, because you said you had to go to university, so you did, so tell me more.
Yes. Well, as I said, in Egypt, if you don't go to university, you're illiterate. You have to go to university. And for me, I thought, what's the easiest thing I could do to get away with going to university? And it was Egyptology.
The huge exterior tombs in pyramid form began with the step pyramid at Saqqara and now progressed to that of Meidum.
Egyptology was the easiest thing for me because I've been on every major dig and I know most of it. Also, I know all the professors. We interview them all the time on my documentaries, and they like me, or they want to act as if they like me so I can get them more interviews on BBC and Discovery channels. So I thought, I'll just go in, never even attend college, and I'll have full A's, and I'm not a full A student by far. Getting into Egyptology and studying the language and history was really life-changing for me at that time. I fell in love with not just making documentaries, I fell in love with my own history. Since then, I took my job in a completely different direction because every time I'm there, I really, really appreciated it because I got that exclusive look into places that no one has ever been to. And I get to go there. I, the nobody, get to go there and see the first clues on these mummies. Being able to be the first one that can solve a mystery because it's so obvious just because I was the first one there is a great feeling.
It's amazing. Now, you also are amazingly gifted at math. I know this mostly because of your casino math. I still don't know how to play craps, but we've won 9 out of 10 times. So just tell me, I mean, obviously somewhere along the way you must have realized you had a gift for math.
Yes, I loved math. Math was my thing. Math was my problem. My parents would stop me from studying because I'd be like neglecting everything else and I'm just studying math. And I finally reached an agreement with my parents that during my off time, I can do math. I would study chemistry, hate it, biology, oh shit me. And then, am I done? We're done with my homework, can I do some math?
Craps,
Then
I'm in.
I'll go to a casino, and also casino age in Egypt is lax. No Egyptian is actually allowed in a casino in Egypt. It's weird. But yes, I do love math and I'm obsessed with it. And I think math, for me, is how my brain thinks. I think of everything mathematically. I think of music mathematically. That's how I play my instruments. I see the algebra in there and I can play it that way. I think of studies that way. I think of archaeology that way. All the timelines align for me. And one big thing I like to do a lot in history of Egypt and archaeology in general is aligning. Because we have so many different timelines from ancient Egypt, for instance.
In the modern city of Alexandria, a valuable archaeological find is being unearthed. In the shadow of the new city is a treasure of pre-Christian architecture. Buried under many tons of sand were these public baths, estimated to be more than 2,000 years old.
If you look at the walls of ancient Egypt and the temples and all the records, you have a timeline that tells you the history of Egypt. But then you go look at the Bible. The Bible took place in Egypt. The Bible is a history book for archaeologists. You look at the Bible and you look at the Pharaoh of Exodus. Everyone knows the Pharaoh of Exodus, but no one knows who he is when he goes to ancient Egyptian studies. And that's my favorite part of history, is to take two documents that are proven historical documents and try to align them together using math in archaeology.
I love it. Now, we're going to get to that because that's become a big part of your career on Ancient Aliens as well as with your new show, Mummies Unwrapped. But let's get to a shoot where you ticked off a particularly important lady on the shoot. Tell me about that shoot and what happened.
It's not a nice way of putting it. I didn't tick off that lady. She was okay with it because there's the movement. In 2009, April 10th, 2009, I was producing another show like all the other shows, 10 days, sci-fi network show. It's called Destination Truth with Josh Gates. I asked her for all the equipment list with the serial numbers. A big part of my job is getting equipment in and out of the country legally, or so they call it. And I asked her for all the serial numbers before she landed, and she's like, I have no time for this, just look it up. And I reply to all the bosses, and I go, well, if you don't send them, you're not getting into the country. So they call her on the phone, and she's like, who's this guy? And then, so she did that, and we got out of the airport in like 10 minutes with 13 cameras, which is very hard. But then we got out, and she still hated me. I still didn't like her too much. We went straight to the hotel. Everyone went to his room, and she was there with all the equipment, taking it one after the other to her room, getting it all ready. And she was badass. She's doing her thing. She's not complaining. And I liked her then. And then the next day, we're at the pyramids together. I still like her. I don't know if she liked me then or not. By the third day, we were in a market, and we passed by a shop, and she looks at a ring that she really likes with a scarab beetle stone on it. And she asked me, can you help me out to negotiate with that guy? Or when you go to Egypt, like, you have to barter down the price to want 10% of it. And I go in, and I come back out, and I say, so sorry, the guy's not actually selling it, it's only on display. But that night, I take it out of my pocket and give it to her. And I guess she noticed then that I like her. Anyway, and I went to her and I was like, listen, long distance relationships never work. So let's just make a decision where I'm gonna come here for like 3 months, you're gonna go there for 3 months, and try to see if we wanna be together by the end of this year, then we are together. If not, then we break up. No hard feelings, done. I don't know how it's gonna feel, but she left and I was broken. I instantly knew that I'm in love with her. So she came to Egypt for 3 months, and 1 month in, I asked her to marry me, and she said yes. We got married in November 2009, and had our first baby 9 months later in Egypt. And my wife, Shara, her name is Shara, as soon as she came in, she joined the family, she became a part of the business. It's all perfect. Like, she is badass, and she does camera work, and she's great at it. So we started doing all these documentaries in Egypt together, and we're working together. She would be like 8 months pregnant, going around with a big, heavy camera on her shoulders. And she was just awesome. And we had the best time in Egypt. And she moved her life here, and we decided to live in Egypt for the rest of our lives.
Tell me what happens next. You guys are living an amazing life. You're a successful family, a Christian family in Egypt, which is a very much a minority Coptic Christian. You're living in acres of mango trees in a beautiful home, and something changes.
That is all true. We have the best house. We had 16 acres of mango trees, a beautiful pool, and our house is in the same neighborhood where the president's son house is. So we're having a great life, and my wife and I and our 6-month-old baby, Sophia, we thought this is our life, this is how we're gonna live it for the rest of our lives, and we're very happy. And then literally, between a day and night, today is a great day, tomorrow, the country falls apart. started with some protests on the street. People were not happy with the president that was the president since I was a kid, always been elected, Mubarak. I personally thought he was going to be the president until I die. I don't know how, because age doesn't make sense, but that's what I believed as a kid, is that he probably is a god, like he doesn't die. And then those kids went out on the street, and it was awesome. They went out on the street, and we're done with the corruption. We're done with this terrible life we have. Police brutality is what started it. And I was pro that. I was like, yes, go out, have a voice. That's awesome. And my wife instantly then told me, I don't think this is gonna be good. We should start thinking of a plan of evacuation. It's like, what are you talking? You have no clue what happens in this country. All this is gonna be fine tomorrow. This is gonna stop. It happens all the time. That night, the government decided to cut off the internet where people all communicated. Everyone was gathering on Twitter. The government decided to cut off the internet so they can stop the gathering. But it was a big mistake, because as soon as they cut off Twitter, everyone wanted to go out on the street to see what's happening, because that's the only way they knew. The TV in Egypt is government TV. They couldn't get the real news from there. So everyone went out on the street the next day. Everyone was very angry with the government. Everyone was very angry with the police. And the police didn't like it. They weren't used to being angry without fighting back. A couple of people died. Some people, I have friends that got shot in the face. And that night, the police disappeared. And of course, disappeared, all what it means is that they take off their clothes and they look like normal people now, and they hide in their houses because everyone is attacking them. But they disappeared, and the country just fell apart. We started seeing people jumping the fences and hearing on the radio that all the richer neighborhoods are getting attacked. And all of a sudden, as a Christian, the revolution became a Muslim Brotherhood revolution. As coming from a richer family became a guilt. The revolution was for the poor. And having a white wife, so I was the corrupt, infidel spy, all of a sudden, between the day and night. Some of my best friends, I would call them on the phone to ask them what's happening, and they'd be like, it's conspiracy time right now, we can't talk. We're not really friends. And I grew up with all Muslim friends. We had Muslim friends, Christian friends. There was never that problem. And it's worth mentioning that the Muslim Brotherhood are not Muslims on the street. They are the Muslim Brotherhood. It's very equivalent to the Islamic State that happens to use religion as their weapon. I'm Christian, and I became the infidel. I became the target. That night, my wife and I spent it inside our food storage with our baby, because it only had one window, and we blocked the doors with deep freezers so no one can enter from that side. And we started boiling sand and oil, just in case anyone starts climbing. If you pour sand and oil on them, they will burn to death. And it's not like we have been thinking about how to burn people to death, but sometimes it kicks in, and you start thinking, well, I need to have a backup plan, and I will kill a person to save my family now.
And you're there thinking about how to fight, and then Shara, who is much brighter, was thinking about plan B and how to get out of this. So did she call the embassy? What happened next?
The next morning after we woke up, thankfully no one jumped. We didn't have to burn anyone to death, so that's not on my record. But the next morning, the embassy calls my wife on the phone, and they say, they normally call all the American citizens that they know they live in Egypt for cases like that. And they say, we're sending a plane in. In 2 hours, the country's about to get much worse. She said, great, I have my daughter with me. They asked if she was an American citizen. And she said, yes, my daughter is an American citizen. She has her passport already. She said, I have my husband with me. They asked if I was an American citizen. And I wasn't. I didn't plan on any of that. We thought we were going to live all my life in Egypt. I didn't even have a green card or a fiancé visa. I have a travel visa that I go to the US and back from every year. But I never thought about that. She said, he has a travel visa. They said, we can't fit him on a plane. And her response was instant. She said, you don't need space for me either. And for my daughter, we're going to find our own way out. One neighborhood before the airport, there's no way around it. I have to go through that neighborhood, and I know that this neighborhood is, they have different ideology, and they're brotherhood leaning, Muslim brotherhood leaning, and I knew I just wasn't going to stop. I'm driving, and that one road that they're blocking, I can see them, and I start seeing like a 14, 15-year-old child with a sword in his hand, standing in front of the checkpoint, walking towards the car, and I'm coming in, and he is pointing with his sword for the car to stop. But I wasn't going to stop. I was going to drive. My baby's in the back seat. And as I'm driving and I'm looking him in the eye and I'm increasing my speed, something that never happened to me before, how my brain started explaining to me what's about to happen and preparing my body to react that way. I start seeing images and flashes of the kid's skull under my car. I hear the screech. I see it all before it's happening. I hear his friends yelling, and I'm going straight through and I'm looking him in the eye and hoping he just gives up and loses the chicken fight. And he doesn't, and I literally drive straight through. He hits the car with his side, falls on the road, and raises his sword and starts chasing the car. His friends are firing guns, and I am out. So we go straight to the airport. We dump our car at the spot where no more cars are getting through. Everything is jammed. We take suitcases. I put Sophia in a baby Bjorn, and I'm running with a suitcase. My wife has a veil on her head. She's running with another suitcase. We go to the tickets desk, and of course, the credit card machines are not working, so we can't buy a ticket with a credit card. We ask them if there's any flight going to the US or anything that has any seats available, and there was one flight that is supposedly going out in 4 hours to New York that has 2 business class seats available, nothing else. The whole plane is full. I asked them how much. They said 20,000 for, and just 3 days before, for some weird reason, my wife had told me, Egypt is more of a cash place. You have more cash than you would have here. I had 25,000 in cash, and I was taking them to the bank, and my wife said, you know what, just leave them here today, but you never know. And we had 25,000 on us. She gives us 2 tickets. Sophia's under 2, so she could be on our lap. And we take the 2 tickets and start running towards the security entrance so we can get into the airport. And of course, there's people are sleeping on the ground, and you can't get anywhere, lines and over lines. I tell my wife to hold for a second, I'm gonna jump. I jumped the line, I went on top of cases, tried to get the security guy, and the guy is like, yeah, this is not moving, no flights are taking off, you can't enter here. And I knew my airport.
And the people.
And the people at the airport. And there's one door at the airport where all the equipment comes out from. You can't enter from that door. But I know that door, and I know the guy that stands by that door. So I sneak my wife and Sophia, and I tell her, let's go this way. We go that way. I see the guy. He's the guy that I know. I take out the 5,000, whatever we have left, handed them to him. We walk straight through with Sophia and Shara, go straight to the plane. We are on the plane. We are sitting in our business class seats on the plane, and no one else is on the plane. The plane is nearly empty. Each now and then one passenger comes up. The fully booked plane has now 12 passengers. And co-pilot is there, the pilot is not. There's no way this flight was going to take off. We're sitting there 4 or 5 hours after departure time, starting to plan what is our next trek from there. How are we going to get out? How are we going to find the car that we left in the middle of nowhere? The pilot walks in, closes the door, plane takes off. For some reason, the pilot made it, sat in the seat, didn't wait for anyone else, and took off. Took off, and we're in the seats, and the relief just falls on you. It's just like, my child is safe, my family's safe, and we come straight here to New York. And in my head, I'm thinking, 4 days we're gonna go back. No, really. I lived in Egypt all my life. Egypt is my home. And growing up it's so safe. We left our car doors open. We never locked our doors. Everything was always so safe in Egypt. Obviously, that's because of police brutality. People are quite scared, but it's safe. I did not think ever that Egypt could not be safe. We left, we went straight to Syracuse, New York, where my father-in-law is. He took us in, and watching TV there, 6 days later, the government falls apart. The country falls apart completely. All our money is in Egypt in a bank. We can't access them. We decide to start over. We moved straight to LA, and it took about 5 months to get a work permit. And I wasn't gonna wait for a work permit. Don't share the news. But I really did not know how to not work.
So Shara, during this time though, she has a work permit, so what?
She landed, and the first day she was working. It's LA, she does camera. She was working every day, and I was the babysitter. And it's very hard being the babysitter. Just for the ones that are, because it's not an easy job. I would go on, I'm trying to apply for jobs, and I have all these years of experience. I moved here when I was, 26, 27, and I've already had 10 years to 15 years of experience in the field. So I would go around telling everyone that I knew already, that I worked with in Egypt, hey, I'm here now, I'm looking for a job, I could do anything. And for some reason in Los Angeles, if you don't have experience in Los Angeles, you don't have experience, you don't exist. So no one would give me a job. I would go to Craigslist, which is a magical website in America that has very weird people. And they offer jobs sometimes. So I would go every day, I would put in my resume to all these jobs, and I would write every single job. I would write a personal letter to them, and all these amazing jobs opportunities that I'm trying to get are literally quinceañeras and birthday parties for $100 that I go to, but I didn't care. It would have cost me more to do it because I'm gonna have to hire a babysitter in Los Angeles, and they are very, very expensive. But all I wanted was to get one thing, just one job. And each now and then, someone responds who doesn't care about the products and hires anyone on the street. He would hire me. I would go film his birthday party, give me $100. But the thing is, it wasn't the $100 I was after. It was just really the feeling that I'm working. Any thing that can make me feel like there is hope again, that I can build something again. My wife is working every day. She's paying all the bills. And one of these Craigslist jobs that I applied for called me in the middle of the night, midnight, said, the guy that is with us tomorrow on the event that we're filming, Flate, can you come with all your stuff? And I was like, yeah. I went the next morning. I saw the guy. I was very happy. And in that event, he told me, it's great working with you. I was very happy to take that $50. It's great working with you. I know someone that could use you. A friend of mine. And he introduces me to his friend, who then I worked with. And I got paid more. And I did well, and he enjoyed it. His friend very quickly became my friend. And that guy then had a project, had a documentary that he wanted to do. And the cinematographer that was going with him had an emergency and couldn't do it 3 days before the flight. He called me, he said, listen, my cinematographer is not going, do you want to come with me? He doesn't know my skills, he can't trust me. But he felt it. I went with him. We went to Dominican Republic. We made a documentary, first documentary I did with him in America. And we won Emmys. I won my first Emmy. That friend became my best friend. And I'm grateful to him for his friendship.
Likewise. It was only because your wife was not available to come on the trip that I decided I would have you come on the trip. Okay, fast forward. So now you're starting to get recognition for your work.
Yes.
And people in LA now are starting to notice because it is hard to become a prophet in your own hometown. I think that's from the Bible, maybe. And so you're starting to do very well in documentaries all around the world, but then LA starts to take notice. And fast forward a few years, and one particular pretty important guy in LA starts to take notice. By the way, also at the same time, your Egyptology skills are coming in handy on TV. Tell us about that a little bit.
There's something for me to mention too. When I first moved here, the first thing I did was I looked around and saw what people were wearing and how people act, and how can I just look the same, act the same, talk the same to blend in. And I started wearing my baggy pants, t-shirts.
The LA production uniform.
The
You
LA
look
production
basically
uniform.
one step from homeless.
Very homeless chic, they call it. And it wasn't me. I wear a blue shirt, my skinny jeans, my pouches, and my wool socks every day. I expected people to not accept that here. I expected people to be like, well, what is this guy? I tried to start faking American accent, which is very hard. But that didn't work out for me. And I have to give you the credit for what I'm about to say. When I was filming this event, what, 6 years ago, 7 years ago? And you were talking about your costume.
You need to dress like in your brand photo, like you would typically dress. You actually don't even realize that you're triggering distrust if when people meet you, you don't look the way they expect you to, or you don't act the way they expected you to. So
Your personality, who you are and how you dress. And it hit me. It's like, of course, these people don't want to work with me. That's not me that they don't want to hire. Maybe I could be me. Maybe if I'm myself, I'll get a better chance of getting hired. And I changed. I went back to myself. I put my hat on and I thought, if they don't like it, they don't like it. I wore that hat every time I was in a tomb, in a pyramid, in the desert. I put my hat on, put my jeans on, put my shirt on, and I felt myself again, because that's me. Once I had something to show for, once I had the Academy saying that, oh, this guy knows what he's doing, all of a sudden everyone in Los Angeles starts going, oh, well, at least the Emmys think that he knows what he's doing, so maybe he knows what he's doing. And they started hiring me. I worked from one job to the other. I got a lot of jobs. I started to get fully booked, and I was so excited. I did my best on every job, and I've made a lot of friends on every job. I had a big smile, and people enjoyed working with me, which was great. I loved it. While I was working on a couple of documentaries, I had a friend that did a job, and then Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, MGM, the biggest production company in the world, had a show that they were working on, and they were thinking it's an R&B and hip-hop competition show with Rick Ross and The Dream. And what they wanted it to look like was different than anything out there. They wanted it to be real, but beautiful. And they came across my name. They saw some of my work. They didn't really trust me, and they said no to me at a position. My friend was the executive producer, and he put my name through as director. They were like, he doesn't have big shows credits yet. And my friend was like, just meet the guy. What do you have to lose? The president of Unscripted, Barry Posnick, is sitting there for me to meet him. His time is very precious. I walk in like that. He thinks, oh, this guy can direct. It's LA. No, I explained to him my vision, and he believes in it, and I get hired. I direct their hip-hop competition show, and it looks different than any other hip-hop competition show. Mark Burnett, the producer of Survivor, The Voice, Celebrity Apprentice, he is probably one of the most influential men in America. He brings me in to meet with me. I sit with him for an hour and a half chatting about life. He goes, I'm bringing my favorite show back, The Contender, which is a boxing competition show with Sylvester Stallone, and I want to make it look different than anything else out there. I'm gonna hire you to do it. Make it look like a movie, make it look epic. And he hires me, and I do that show. And if anyone has seen the show, or if anyone will go on and look at the show looks completely different than anything else out there. And Mark Burnett decides that this is the look that he wants his shows to look like from now on. And I became Mark Burnett's boy.
Ladies and gentlemen, referee Jack Reese.
Now I'm not looking for work. People are approaching me, asking me if I would please go work on this project for them. People are calling me to say, can we put your name on as the director before we pitch this to a network so they know how it's gonna look. While this was happening, I'm also an Egyptologist, don't forget that. I know the history of ancient Egypt, I know the archaeology of ancient Egypt, and I know hieroglyphics. I know the ancient Egyptian language.
You speak them?
I write and read hieroglyphics. I don't speak them. It doesn't work that way. It's a dead language. But when you just mention the fact that it's very sexy, right? I speak hieroglyphics. That's what was my pickup line on my wife, and it worked. So a show called Ancient Aliens on History Channel, they called me to go direct one episode, and I went there, directed the episode. Then I came back and they said, we have a next season, can you go direct it? And from the same company, someone else called me and they were like, we have someone that we're sending to go direct an episode in Egypt. Can you please be on it as the Egyptologist? Also, when they started calling me, because I did not have an agent, because everyone in LA has a big agent, and I was like, why do I need an agent? I can talk for myself. Agents are idiots. And then they started calling me, and more people are calling me. I have to negotiate right, left, and there's law involved. So I was like, I'm gonna hire one of these idiots. I have to hire an agent. And I call Nick Nanton straight away, and I ask him I asked him to be my agent. I thought, well, an agent that you trust is better than an agent you don't.
I find it fascinating that at that time, all of a sudden, there was a huge demand for an Egyptologist who spoke decent English, who was like on a scale from 1 to handsome, like a 3, but it works, it works. Give us a little bit, before we wrap up, where are you going, what are you doing? You're tying your favorite things together, the stories, tell us about it.
So it worked out, and I was on Ancient Aliens, and they approached me for a show with me as the lead, as the adventurer archaeologist called Mummies Unwrapped.
I see the light!
High up in the Peruvian Andes, I'm looking for a Cloud People tomb that hasn't been looted. I believe their mummies could provide me with the evidence that shows that the Cloud People could have been the first Europeans to arrive in the New World.
Mummies Unwrapped is going to be an adventure mystery series that probably will air about May 2019. I go out next week to start shooting our first episodes. We're going around the world, and every episode will probably solve a myth, not just about the mummy, but a much broader term of how this mummy can help us solve a bigger myth. Like in Egypt, for instance, I'm trying to dig deep into the Exodus mummy, and if the Exodus actually happened or not in Egypt at that time. And I'm finding mummies that will help us through new discoveries and through new technologies that would help us try to figure out if the myth is real or not. So we're going around the world, not just Egypt. We're going to Peru, we're going to Argentina. Again, don't share this news or else I'll get in trouble. We're going to Denmark, Ireland, Egypt, and a bunch of other countries.
Yes, and I'm going to lose your services for about 3 months.
I'm going to miss you so much, but we can FaceTime at night.
There's always that. Well, I would love nothing more than that, to do very well for a little while, and then we get you back. But thank you so much for joining me on the show, man. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you so much, Nick. Thank you very much, guys.
Ramy Romany, the one, the only.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.